guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Devin and this is Little Sight Glamorous Life, and I am so glad to be back and filming with you guys. I know it has been like forever. I'm so sorry, but I just wanted to take some personal time and be with my family over the holiday season and everything like that. But I am so glad to be back and so glad to be here with you guys. So the thing that I want to talk about today is dancers and injuries. So this is a big one because, of course, being a dancer unfortunately comes with injuries because dancers are athletes. Now I know that that's a huge debate, why I don't know, but yes, dancers are athletes, and so we can and oftentimes do get injured because dance is physical. It's very physical. You're using your body, and a lot of factors play into injuries and all of that. Now, let me just disclaimer say I am not a medical doctor by any means or anything like that. We're not really going to get into the medical side of it. I really want to kind of get more into the mindset that dancers typically have behind injuries. So, what is the mindset that dancers typically have behind injuries? Well, speaking from my own personal experience and from other dancers that I have been dancing with for a long time, dancers typically don't have very healthy mindsets behind injuries. And what I mean by that is 9 times out of 10, dancers don't take injuries very seriously. And so they'll keep dancing on a broken toe or a strained hamstring, whatever the situation may be. They tend to just keep dancing on it, and it's pretty common knowledge, I think, that if you have an injury and you keep irritating it, it typically becomes worse. And I'm speaking from personal experience when I say that this happens all too often in terms of dancing. So this is my personal thoughts on where this comes from and why it's still a pretty big problem in terms of dancing, in my opinion. Of course, this is just my opinion, and like I said, I'm not a medical doctor by any means, but this is just kind of been my observation in terms of myself as well as other dancers. So I feel like a lot of the bad habits that dancers gain in terms of injuries is something that's kind of been passed down from years and years and years and years of dancing. Because way back when, even as far as when they were court dancing and all these things like that, there wasn't awareness in terms of your body and what was good for your body and what wasn't, just different things like that. So there were a lot of practices, especially in classical ballet, of like stretching and things of that nature that were extremely unhealthy. And so dancers got a very early stigma, which was actually very true at the time, of their careers ending right around 20, 21, 22 years old. And that was because a lot of the things that they were doing with their bodies were extremely unhealthy. And this isn't just injuries. In some cases it was eating or other different things like that. But primarily I would say a lot of it came down to injury. So I think a lot of these practices and habits and things like that are just things that have been passed down for so long. And so when you start training, typically as a dancer, a lot of dancers start training at a very early age. I started dancing when I was 2. A lot of dancers start training around 2, 3, 4, 5-ish, somewhere around there. So you start learning a lot of these things really early on. And I think that mindset of like, I just have to push through it starts developing pretty quickly. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, it's the teacher, it's their fault. They're the reason that my child got injured or things like that. And is that true? In a lot of cases, it is. But I kind of tend to look at it this way, is that 9 times out of 10, if a child was injured because of the negligence of a teacher, it's most likely because this teacher thought what they were doing was right. And that's, again, things being passed down from years and years and years of things like this happening. So I feel like a lot of times, sometimes teachers end up hurting children and they don't realize what they're doing is wrong. So it's not intentional, but it's still dangerous nonetheless. So I think it's a lot of different things. Sometimes it's the way that kids are being taught. Sometimes it's like seeing things on TV and thinking, okay, I should try that. Sometimes it's, and I feel like more often than not, let me rephrase that. Sometimes I feel like a lot of it is not being aware of your own body and understanding your own body. And I think this is something that should start really early on in dance, because sometimes kids are doing things and pushing their bodies to do these things that their bodies aren't ready for. Or they might hurt something and not realize how bad it actually is. And I think some of that is because of not having awareness of their body, not truly understanding what their body will and will not do, and what should and shouldn't be done to their bodies. So this mindset, I think, starts off very, very early. A big part of this is also the repercussions of injuries, which to me is a very, very big part of it. And this is something that I think starts pretty young and goes all the way up into professionals and college students and all of this. And I think is a big factor in this, and that is repercussions. Because if you sustain an injury, depending on what it is and how severe it is, you're looking at downtime and having to rest, which I will tell you now, no dancer is a fan of at all. Being in a situation where you have to take care of your body and you have to rest and you can't move, or people have to get things for you, or just the fact of that I can't dance, is devastating. And when I say devastating, I mean I have seen people go into full-blown depression behind this. Like it's really, really, really bad. And the thing is that I feel like for people who aren't dancers, looking on the outside and are kind of like, okay, well, this is just you taking care of your body, doing what you need to do to heal yourself. You should want to do that, right? Well, in the grand scheme of things, yes. But when it comes to dancers, where quite literally our career is our body, and then you injure something that could take that away from you in an instant, it's devastating. It's really, really devastating. So I feel like that perpetuates a lot of the bad habits in terms of the mindset of I can just push through it and I'll be fine. Which I know that has been a big part of some of the injuries and things that I have neglected over the years. Now, when I say like repercussions, I mean, like, say if you're younger, maybe the repercussion is that you get taken out of X amount of dances, or maybe you get taken off the company, or maybe you're put on probation. Or for me, like when you get into college, getting injuries can affect your grade. You can be forced to drop courses, things like that. Or say you're more on the professional level, you could end up not performing for a season or half a season or whatever, just different things like that are absolutely devastating to dancers, and why a lot of us feel the need to push through our injuries, even though it could end up resulting in them being worse. And there are so many examples of this. One big example being Misty Copeland, who is a very, very famous ballerina. And she was given the opportunity to dance a principal role in Firebird, which this was huge, especially with her being African American and a female. And she had been experiencing some pretty bad pain in her shins, but she was like, you know what, I just can't see a doctor right now. I can't do anything because if they know I'm injured, they'll take this away from me. And the thing that was at stake was her becoming a principal dancer. And long story short, it turns out that she had, I think, 6 stress fractures in her leg. So she quite literally danced on a broken leg for a year in order to prove that she was worthy of becoming a principal dancer. And me being a dancer, I understand it. I do. Which I feel kind of messed up for even saying that, but I do. I get it, because being a principal dancer and making history because of her being African American was a huge deal, and it needed to happen. So there's a part of me that understands it, honestly. But the repercussions that came from that were her being out for like a year afterward. And then I think she ended up getting a metal plate put in her leg. So that's where these really unhealthy mindsets really come from. And it's a very weird thing, because I guess just me being a dancer, I understand why we do these things. I do. And the last time that this really happened to me was I fell while I was in a workshop, and I damaged tissues in my toe. So I almost broke it, but I didn't. And I just made the dance company at my university. And this was a big deal for me because I had never officially been on a company until that point, and it was my senior year, and I was just like, I cannot believe this happened to me. It was such bad timing. Like, I can't not dance. And so I got back to school, and I was still in a lot of pain. I was taping my foot all the time, but I was still doing everything. I was still going to class. And my motivation at the time was, you just made the company, and 2, I cannot let my grades suffer from this. Now, here's my 2 cents about this. I don't think that taking care of your body and that sustaining an injury and doing what's necessary to heal should be able to affect your grade. This is something I never agreed with, because I feel like it just perpetuates the unhealthy thinking behind injuries. But it's a very real thing, especially in universities, of the penalties that come with having an injury and having to take care of it and all of that. And it's frustrating, because knowing that I could fail a class because of something that happened that was out of my control is really upsetting, and it's frustrating, and you don't want to quite literally screw up your entire college career because you ended up getting injured. It's like, and you don't know when an injury can happen. You're just hoping and praying it doesn't, and that you make it through your entire college career, your whole dance career, and don't get injured. But it happens. And the fact that the penalty is so steep for something like that, I don't feel like is fair. I don't feel like it's ever fair. Now, mind you, I will be honest, there are some times when you have people who are not completely honest about their injuries, both from the sense of how bad it actually is and making it worse than it actually is. So in that sense, where sometimes people don't always tell the truth about their injuries, I can understand it. But when you have it on the side of people not telling the truth about their injuries because they're afraid of what the repercussions are going to be if they are, is when this mindset gets worse. And I have seen friends who ended their careers because of these horrible mindsets that have been perpetuated. I have seen friends who, something that could have healed in a couple of weeks ended up taking a whole year because they just kept dancing on it because they just didn't want to get penalized for it. And I did it when I hurt my foot. I kept dancing and dancing and dancing on it. And it wasn't until I had one of my teachers say, you know what, you need to stop jumping, stop doing this, and then it'll heal. Because in my brain, I'm like, I cannot screw this up. I can't screw it up. I'm like, I don't care how much pain I'm in at the end of the day. And it could have become such a bad, even worse injury than it was, all because of that mindset. And I definitely think this is something that needs to change. And this is something that's starting to change for me. But this is way later in my career. I'm a much older dancer, so when you become an older dancer, you have no choice but to be more mindful about your body. Because if you want your body to support you and take care of you and allow you to keep dancing up into your 50s and 60s, you have no choice. And I think that's the thing that the younger generation has to understand, is the things that you do and don't do to your body when you're young will affect you later. And so it wasn't until a couple years ago when I had kind of a mild injury and my artistic director at the time was just like, oh no, you're sitting down. And I was like, sitting down? What are you talking about sitting down? She's like, no, you're sitting down. You have an injury and I'm not going to let you make it worse. And let me tell you, I was shocked. I was completely shocked because no one had ever said that to me. Ever. I was just like, I'm sitting down? Like, you're letting me sit down? Like, you want me to get better? Like, what is going on? Like, I was so confused by the fact that she wanted me to take care of myself. I was just like, I don't know what to do with myself. Because there were so many times before that it's like, it wasn't even a discussion that I was going to have to dance through pain. And to give another example of my own personal experience, I was in a really, really bad car accident. And I injured my spine, quite literally from the top of my spine down to my sacrum. And this accident happened 4 days before school started. So I had no choice but to start dancing again 4 days later. Was my body ready to dance? Probably not. But long story short, I kept dancing, and it definitely ended up causing some problems that were much worse had I not been dancing, had I had time to actually rest my body. And now, almost 6 years later, I mean, that's an injury that I will feel the repercussions of for the rest of my life. But I think there's some parts of it that wouldn't be quite as bad now if I could have taken the time for myself. But I couldn't at that time. There was no leniency for me to take care of my body. And even the things that I had to change that were out of my control, I felt very, very judged and very, it just wasn't a great situation. Because when you feel really judged and you feel terrible and you get that feeling from your teachers that are kind of just like, it's your fault for injuring yourself, it just makes it a whole lot worse. So how do I think that this changes going forward? Well, first of all, I think this changes because now we have more information. Like, it's 2019. We have more information about what is good and what isn't good for your body in terms of stretching and warming up and technique and all these things. There's so much information now on what hurts people and what doesn't, and all the things that you need to do to take care of your body. Like, it's there. The information is out there now. So some of these stretches that they were doing way back when, now you can clearly tell that those things are not healthy and they're not good. And then like information on stretching and how to do it properly. And when you start getting older, how you need to do it more and do more deep stretching and all these things, just things in terms of taking care of yourself. There's like no excuse for it now because there's so much information in so many ways to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And this is not just taking care of yourself physically, it's mentally, it's emotionally, it's everything, because all of that is encompassed in dance. Everything. So there's no excuse to not take care of yourself. There's no excuse for teachers to not do what's necessary to start teaching their kids how to take care of themselves. And parents teaching your kids how to take care of themselves. Know what to look for if you feel like there's something that's not right in terms of your child. Just things like that, because it's there. It is literally there. And it's just something that has to change because of knowledge and sharing that knowledge and being open about it, is the only way I think this is going to change. So if we still have teachers that are doing really unsafe things, then we need people who need to educate them and say, look, what you're doing is not helping your students. Just different things like that. Or parents, like knowing what to look for. Can you tell, does your child seem like that maybe they're not eating quite right? Or are they complaining of a pain or something like that they shouldn't be having? And then in terms of other situations, like with colleges, I don't think you should be allowed to affect someone's grade because of injury. They should be able to have the proper time to, not rejuvenate, what's the word that I'm looking for? But they should have time to be able to let their body heal so that they can come back and be strong and finish out what they need to do so that they can go out into the world. And then in terms of the professional world, why wouldn't you want your dancers to take care of themselves? It's like, why would you hold that against them or, whatever the situation may be because of an injury? Because it's like that thinking that started when they were younger, it just escalates and it only gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think talking about this, being honest about this, that these mindsets and mentalities are not healthy is the first thing that has to happen. Acknowledging that there are some unhealthy habits that dancers have, whether it's taking care of their bodies, whether it's eating, whatever the situation may be, there's unhealthy habits that have been around for years and still are there. But now there's information out there. There's people that you can talk to. There's so many more things now to help change this and help dancers be as healthy as they possibly can, mentally, physically, spiritually, everything. Because our body is our career. Our body is our life. Our body is our instrument of expression. And the only way that that's going to keep feeding us is if we take care of ourselves. And that's really my whole point of this video, is that we have to take care of ourselves. Because if we don't take care of ourselves, our body's not going to support us. So in 2019, my wish is for more positive influencing with dancing, more awareness, more understanding of how to take care of your body mentally, physically, and spiritually, so that the next generation of dancers is coming up better and stronger and knowing how to take care of themselves. And that our generation who maybe, well, not maybe, but our generation who didn't have that understanding, or we're just now starting to understand that, then now we can take that into our experience and kind of start turning around some of these things that we have these bad habits for, so that we can continue to dance until we want to stop, not because we have to stop, all because we didn't take the time to take care of ourselves. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you learned something in terms of taking care of your bodies, and maybe you can start doing some research for yourself, or maybe there's someone that that's been injured, or someone struggling, or whatever it may be. I just hope that this video helped you to understand that even if you struggled with these habits and struggled with these issues, or whatever you want to call it, that it can be turned around and you can have a really happy, healthy career in every single aspect. So as usual, I would love for you guys to join my little family over here. So if you would click that lovely red button down here on the stage left side of your screen, or the right hand side, you can subscribe, and I would love for you to do that. I would love, love, love for you to do that. And if you want to be notified of when I'm posting a video, then right next to that little red button, there's a little bell. Click that, and YouTube will tell you when I'm uploading. And of course, guys, I always say this from a place of love. Stay blind to the haters. We don't need them. We don't want them, okay? Stay dangerous to what society says you should be. Because the only person who should say who you should be is you. And of course, you, everything that you are, everything that you will be, is always good enough. Always, 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 always. And never forget that you're beautiful. So I'll see you in my next video, guys. I love you. Bye.